This is part 12 of Breath of the Wild. In this part, we're going to conquer the fourth and final shrine on the Great Plateau, which will involve the Stasis Trial. And then we're going to meet with the old man finally, now that we've hit all 4 of the shrines. And we'll end the part by making our way towards the Temple of Time.
About time we feel like we're about to get off the Great Plateau because...
I know.
I mean, it's only what part are we on? We're on part 12 right now,
12.
but it did seem like kind of a while to get off the opening area, and I think it was something that kind of threw me off because I thought once we got into the game, we could go anywhere. And it's like, oh, wait, there's kind of a contained area, and it did take a little while to get off, but at still the same time, I mean, it was so big that it really didn't bother you that much at all.
To me, it like... The perfect example of a game that took way too long to get going was Skyward Sword. Like, I thought it took forever to finally like get into the meat of that game. So at least in this game on the Great Plateau, they taught you the mechanics. You got all of the runes you needed. But I'm kind of with you though in the fact that we heard so much about how it's so open world, you could go wherever you want. But I mean, we're part 12. We're almost an hour and a half into the game. And we've still been on this intro area. And I get it. We've seen some shrines. We fought some enemies. But it still felt a little contained.
Now, once you do get off this area, like the game does completely open up. And the rest of the game is open world. Basically, after this Great Plateau, you can go straight to Ganon if you want to. And try to defeat him. But yeah, it'd be very dumb. I'm sure there's actually some people who have tried it. There's probably some people who are a lot better players than I am that have actually done it. But, I mean, after this, and I found myself actually going back to the Great Plateau quite a bit because it's kind of like that whole starting area and, like, everything. And then there's also, like, some stuff that you'll just miss on the Great Plateau, like when you have more abilities later on, not necessarily runes, but, I don't know. I don't even have a good example. The paraglider.
Well,
the paraglider we'll be getting.
It's not just on the Great Plateau itself. There's some stuff that you find like in the immediate vicinity around it. Which I don't know about you. The first thing I did when I got the paraglider was jump off that Great Plateau and glide about as far as I could.
Yes, I did the same thing.
Just to see, what you could do. And I feel like I know later on in the game we find several of the memories and things like that are all kind of in pretty close to the plateau. So there were things that were very easy to miss if you did like what we did and just jump off and coast as far as you can.
Actually, those memories are quite spread out because I actually have gotten all the memories. Oh, I finally got to admit something. I did finally cheat the other day. I could not find the last memory. I was like, you know what? I am not traversing all over this map trying to find this last memory. So I finally had to cheat, look at something, but there's only a memory, so I was like, it's not that big of a deal, and I don't feel too bad about it.
And this is kind of a topic for a little later when we actually start finding them, but the memories, I love when you find them and it fills in the backstory a little bit. I hate the fact that you could literally go through almost the entire game and not find a single one. Like, you'll get ones when you encounter the major, the major goals of the game. You'll get a few memories. But there are, 12?
Yeah, there's 12.
In your Sheikah Slate that you have to find the location in the world. And you can literally go the entire game without finding them. And I feel like you lose a lot of the backstory if you don't do that. But that's way off topic.
Yeah, I was going to say, and the reason we're telling you this so early on in the game during Stasis Trial is because it is important for the story.
It's important to remember for later.
We're kind of talking about it. Like, we have gotten a little bit ahead of ourselves the last couple of parts, I mean. But, like, it is tough, as I said, being so far in the game and coming back to this area.
We can't avoid spoilers.
You have, well, for the most part, we've avoided, big spoilers and stuff. We're basically just talking about the mechanics of the game, which I think is just more, beneficial than anything, because there's a lot of things, mechanic-wise, like being able to freeze the enemies with the stasis ability, which I think that's maybe later on with an upgrade, or can you do that right off the bat?
We get an upgrade later on that lets us freeze enemies, but speaking of the stasis...
but it's not necessary, I can tell you that.
No, it really is. And it makes some enemies a little bit easier to line up a shot on their critical point or whatever. But to me, the stasis was not my... I was not a big fan of it. I love the concept. I love the idea, especially when you can freeze an item and hit it multiple times to build up what they call... I think they call it this kinetic energy or whatever. And send the object flying. I love that concept. But in practice, I feel like outside of shrines, I almost never use that ability.
It is used a lot in the shrines. I'm kind of disagree with you on this one. I actually did like this ability a lot. I'm a little bit farther in the game, so I probably used it more than you have. But I thought it was just a kind of a cool rune, like being able to put that kinetic energy behind it and just like see a ball like that shooting across like the shrine or wherever you're at. I thought it was just very cool, and I use it for many different things. Like, yes, it's mostly in the shrines, but I also used it outside the shrines a lot. So maybe it's just one of those things, me being a little bit farther in the game, I've used it a little bit more, but I really did like that rune.
To be honest, that really might be it. But just to me, it was just, I will say, I love the visual look, like when you freeze something though, and like all these chains appear, and it shows you that it's frozen by the stasis. And I really love that visual impact of like just having the chains holding an item in place. I thought that was a really cool touch for the rune.
And when we use it in some shrines later on in the game, like it does kind of go along with your chains and everything. Like we'll use it up high, we'll use it down low, and the visuals of that chain, like you said, just it looked very cool. And I think it made the shrines that use the stasis rune to get through, I thought those were just some very fun puzzles really in the game.
They really are, and we will run into quite a few of those. But after this shrine, I was excited. We got our fourth. I just totally mind farted the name of the item. Spirit orb.
Spirit orbs, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I had a moment there.
Oh, that's fine.
It's been a long day.
I've never had those kind of moments during any of our commentary.
But you don't really know it right now, but like throughout the game, getting 4 spirit orbs is always the magic number. Like that's the amount you can go turn it in to get either another heart container or an upgrade to your stamina meter. And just so anytime you get 4, it's great to find a goddess statue and get that upgraded. And that's how we'll end up getting so many of our heart and stamina upgrades.
And now there's a lot, I don't know if there's a lot, but there's goddess statues all over the map. The only one we've seen up to this point is the one in the Temple of Time, which you kind of saw he went up to and said you could pray. Those are throughout the land, and like I believe they're not actually activated until you use them once. But what I did, to be honest with you, in this game, I kind of found one that was kind of easy to get to from the shrine that I would warp to, and that's really the one that I used throughout most of the game.
Yeah, there are literally 1 or 2 that I'm pretty sure I just keep going back to over and over once you find the shrine.
Well, some of them take really long to get to, and like you're like, okay, that was cool to maybe activate it, but there's no reason to go back there when this path right here is a lot shorter to get to the god's statue.
Well, even the one in the Temple of Time, I mean, you look at me, I'm kind of, well, first of all, he gives you a hint that you need to go where like the 4, or like the lines intersect if you drew lines from the 4 shrines. But even here, it's like, it's a little bit of a trek from either a tower or a shrine to get to the Temple of Time. So once I found one in like later in the game, I quit coming back to the Temple of Time almost altogether.
Yeah, exactly. And now if you warp to the Great Plateau Tower, you could fly pretty close to the Temple of Time, because
once we get the paraglider,
I believe very early on in the game, I did. Well, yeah, that's exactly true. I don't know why you're not using it yet, Red. We would get around this area a lot faster if we were. But I used the Temple of Time God statue the first couple of upgrades that I did, because, like I said, if you go on that tower, you could get there pretty close or pretty quickly. But if you did warp to a shrine, it did take a little bit longer on the Great Plateau.
It really did, and I do think it's cool like that this old man has kind of been our guide throughout this entire opening part, and up until this point we've gotten so little of the story. Like we have heard almost nothing about what's going on. We just see this Hyrule in ruins, and the old man a minute ago finally told us like you're ready to hear everything.
Yeah.
And to me, that made me very excited to get right to the next part, just to find out a little bit of, the story of what's really going on in this world. And obviously we'll get into that a little bit in the next part, but I was finally excited that someone was ready to tell us what's happening in this destroyed version of Hyrule.
First of all, sweet slide down those rocks right there. That was what you need to do early on. But I kind of do agree with you. Like, it was nice to get a story, because leading up to the game, we really didn't get much of a story at all what was going on in the game, so it was nice to get that. But anyways, this will wrap up part 12 of Breath of the Wild Let's Play series.